on too long.
Onto this show to talk about what we've been finding in Bosnia.
Absolutely. Why don't you give us a little background on how you became involved with this project and with this discovery?
Well, I've studied geology at the University of Leeds. I don't actually have any training in archaeology as such. I've never done any excavations, things like that. But earlier this year, I began researching heavily into alternative views of the pyramids because there was something about them that just didn't make any sense to me. The datings of them, how they were constructed, the Egyptian ideas of slaves pulling huge stones with ropes. It just didn't fit into my mind as something that could really happen. And I took myself to Egypt in January to have a look at the Great Pyramids, and when I got back, I was just checking something out on the internet, and I came across the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun Foundation website, and I was like, pyramids in Bosnia? What's going on here? And you know, I saw the first picture, which a lot of people claim over the internet that it's just a hill. And I looked at it, and straight away I was like, that is a pyramid. It has to be a pyramid. So I emailed the project leader, Dr. Samiras Managic, and he invited me along to the camp that they were having over the summer. And I stayed for nearly 3 months. It's supposed to be a 10-day shift, but I couldn't leave the place. You know, there was so much to learn. And that's how I basically got into the project.
So you're talking about January of this year that you went to Egypt?
Yes, it was January this year, yes. I've had a roller coaster of a ride since getting involved in the research of these pyramids. So it's been an absolutely fantastic experience.
Oh, I can imagine. So when you came back and actually made contact with, what's his name again, the director there?
Dr. Samiras Managic.
Okay. Yeah, I've listened to a couple of interviews with him. Very charismatic, interesting, well-informed man from the impression that I got from him.
He is, and the way that the mainstream media disrespects him, calling him a fruitcake or whatever, it just goes to show how disconnected mainstream media is from reality.
Yes, we see that of course, with the pyramids in Giza and with the pyramids all over the planet. They're always trying to downplay them and, like you say, give us this totally bogus story that they were tombs for pharaohs or tombs for kings, and when there's actually absolutely zero evidence for that kind of a theory on it, and of course the building techniques that they throw at us that are just nonsense.
That's right, and hopefully what we're going to be uncovering in Bosnia is going to shine, an even brighter light on the fact that we really don't have a clue well, we do have a clue, but the official line of what these pyramids were, it's going to, completely discredit those ideas.
Yes, this is a huge development. And so you came back from Egypt and you made contact with the project there in Bosnia, and you went there shortly after that then?
Yeah, I went over there in June and stayed over till the end of August. Well, actually into September I stayed there till.
Do you have plans to go back as well?
Oh yes. I'm heading back there as soon as possible next year. It's something I feel very passionate about. There's so much to be found in Bosnia. I mean, we've got these 5 pyramids plus many other pyramidal structures. There's tumuli. Who knows what else is buried underneath the surface. This is going to be work that's going to take decades.
Yes. What actually is kind of the first wave of what they want to accomplish? Would be like stripping one side bare enough so that we could see what's underneath, or are they approaching us in a different attack plan, I guess you could say?
I think it's a slow process because there's no support from European science bodies or anywhere else in the world. There's no funding, and with no funding, there's no infrastructure. So the fact that a lot of the world think that this is a hoax is probably a good thing, because if everyone just turned up en masse tomorrow, a lot of the evidence would be destroyed. Because, I mean, if you go to the Giza Plateau, there's hundreds and hundreds of security everywhere, making sure that people aren't doing something they shouldn't be. And in Bosnia, there's nothing. You are completely free to roam up and down these pyramids, and you could get up to anything on them. So it's a slow process of opening up people's minds to accept the idea that there are pyramids in Bosnia, and because the mainstream media isn't helping us so much, it's pretty much up to the everyday person, word of mouth, going there, seeing it for themselves, knowing it in their hearts that it's real, and then going back home and telling their friends to go and visit them.
Yes, I was looking at images of the pyramids, some of the pyramids they had found in Mexico several decades ago. And now at the beginning they looked like, kind of like what the Bosnia pyramids look like now, covered with soil and trees and looking everything like a mountain. And then of course we know what those pyramids in Mexico now look like when they've been completely uncovered, you could say. So
yeah, that's right. They had some agropodologists actually go to the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon, and they ascertained that the amount of time it would take for that soil to build up on top of those pyramids was between 12 and 15,000 years. But that doesn't give us the age of the pyramids. That just tells us when the pyramid structures were left to nature, for nature to take over, basically.
Right. That could be itself, several millennia in between there from the time it went into disuse for whatever reason, a catastrophe or an ice age or other things you could postulate there, huh?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just thinking we could, before we get into the heavier subjects, let's first, can you just tell people about things like the size and the materials and their alignment to to north, south, and east, west, and those kinds of things?
Well, they're found in a town called Visoko, which is 20 kilometers northwest of Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. The Sun Pyramid, which is, if you go on the internet, that's probably the pyramid you'll first come across, as it's the largest pyramid. It's the biggest pyramid in the world by a long, long way. Mm-hmm. As you said, it was a third taller than the Giza Pyramid, which is 147 meters. But the Sun Pyramid in Bosnia is actually at least 220 meters. It may be even more because we haven't pinned down the foundations quite just yet. Mm-hmm. But being a third taller, it's also volume-wise, it's humongous. It is absolutely massive. I'm sure it's probably the biggest structure in the world right now. You cannot appreciate how big this thing is until you're actually stood at the foot of it. The Moon Pyramid as well, that's taller than the Great Pyramid of Giza. When you actually go to the Valley of the Pyramids and you look at the Moon, you think, oh no, that's not that big, because you're comparing it to the Pyramid of the Sun. But if you were actually going to put the Great Pyramid of Giza next door to it, you would see that it's 20, 30 meters taller than the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Wow. Now, so the Pyramid of the Moon is the second in height?
Yes. We have the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon, Pyramid of the Dragon. Now, they form a perfect equilateral triangle.
Huh.
So what are the chances of three hills, as people like to call them, that all form pyramidal shapes that also form a perfect equilateral triangle? I mean, that can't happen in nature, right?
Right. Now, are those three pyramids that you've just mentioned, are they all aligned in the same north, south, east, west?
Yeah, they are all aligned.
Wow.
The Pyramid of the Sun is more closely aligned to the cardinal points than the Pyramid of Giza. It only deviates from a true north, geographic north, by 12 seconds. I can't remember what the Great Pyramid of Giza is, but it's not as close as that, basically.
And then the other two pyramids are also aligned with the pyramid of the Sun.
They are aligned to the cardinal points, yes.
Wow, wow. And you say they form an equidistant triangle.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
And then there's some other pyramidal structures. You have the Pyramid of Love, which is next to the Pyramid of the Sun. Now, those two pyramids are actually built into the side of natural hill formations. They have causeways running from the natural hills into the sides of the pyramids. You have Temple of Mother Earth, which isn't a traditional pyramid shape. It has two pyramidal sides to it, and it's curved, kind of like a crescent moon. And the sides of that are very, very steep. When you go towards that structure, the walls are just, it looks like it goes straight up. I mean, the engineering techniques that they must have used would have been incredible.
Well, yeah, I can imagine. Imagine. We just assume then that they chose these mountainous areas for a reason to build the pyramids on top of them, and that there must be but it's an engineering reason or a...
Well, I've been looking into the ley lines of the Earth, and that some of the grids actually run through Vesico. So that's one of the reasons why they chose that location. And also, when you're actually at the top of the Sun Pyramid, you can see miles and miles around, the whole area. It's an observation point as well as, an energy point. They knew what they were doing when they were putting those pyramids there, certainly.
So if you were, to stand on top of the Pyramid of the Sun, how far in the distance would the other two pyramids be from you? Would they be right next to you in a sense? Or okay.
You can see every structure from the top of the Pyramid of the Sun. They're literally. If you go on Google Earth, you can see how close they are. I can't remember off the top of my head what the distance is, but it's not too far. I think it's less than 3 kilometers.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that was a question I wanted to ask you about the respective alignments between the three pyramids. You say that they're in a triangular form because you have the ones in Giza, with Robert Bauval's theory that they're lined up in the same ratio as you have with Orion.
Some people have found a correlation with the Vega star, which was once the North Star. Mm-hmm. The equilateral triangle actually points. If you draw a line from the apex through the base, that line would have pointed to the Vega star.
Is there any more speculation on what the significance of that would be, like, say, lettering that has perhaps been found, or symbols that would connect it to the Vega system?
The only symbols we have currently haven't been translated. They are similar to Hungarian runes, but that's as far as we've got with those things. No one's yet been able to identify them.
Huh. And those, where were those found? Is that inside the structure itself, or is this on an area nearby or outside? Or
we haven't actually gained access to the pyramids yet.
Okay.
We found artifacts within the tunnel network, which we've been excavating. I mean, the tunnel network is a whole mystery in itself. We can go into that. Do you want to go into that now, or should we continue talking about the actual pyramids?
Yeah, let's go a little bit more with the actual pyramids. I'm sure people listening to this will be able to draw up images on the internet. But do you have, like, the actual angles of, say, the Pyramid of the Sun?
I have it somewhere.
Have, like, the actual angles of, say, the Pyramid of the Sun?
I have it somewhere, but I cannot find it at the moment. It's the angles. It's not the same both sides. It's an elongated pyramid. Two of the sides are longer than the other sides. So it's a very unique pyramid. You know, it's not at all like the Egyptian pyramids. The material that it's constructed from is completely different as well. The pyramid itself is manufactured from concrete. They sent it off to 6 different institutions around the world, including the Geopolymers Institute in France, which is the world-leading department for materials analysis. And they all sent back the same results, that the materials are concrete. And one of the interesting results was that they ascertained that the material was 5 times stronger than the best quality concrete we can make today. Wow. With modern industrial techniques.
Wow! And yeah. It would have to be to survive for that long, I would guess.
Well, yeah. Modern day concrete, they estimate, would only last about 15,000 years before it, fell back into its constituent parts, just over time, basically. But what we're finding in Bosnia, this concrete is as strong today as it was when it was manufactured. It's quite incredible. What they did find was that looking at the crystal grains within the material, it was heated up to above 500 degrees centigrade. Now, one of the constituents of the concrete is clay. And when you heat clay up to this kind of temperature, the properties of the clay change, and it takes on adhesive qualities. And this is what bound all the other material together to make it so strong.
Very interesting. So they had some kind of a process to make some kind of a concrete slurry and then heat that up to 500 degrees Celsius, huh?
And when you see the sheer scale of the pyramids, and you realise how much concrete is actually in use,
right?
To heat that up to 500 degrees centigrade, we're not talking about men in caves dancing around a little campfire with a pot of hot clay in it. This is a huge undertaking that would have required immense technology and knowledge to do such a thing.
Oh yes, indeed, absolutely. Just the sheer scale of how much clay you would have to, at some place, dig up and then change that into these blocks is mind-boggling.
Yeah, and what we see is that there's actually 5 layers of this concrete. They're about a meter thick each, these layers, and in between these layers is a small layer of clay, probably about 15 to 30 centimeters. And I guess we can hypothesize that this clay was some kind of shock absorber. It allowed relative movement between the concrete layers, heat expansion, tectonic motion, and this added, structural integrity to the construction.
So, what would be the typical size of one block or one concrete shape?
Well, the blocks we're finding are all completely unique. This is one of the interesting points around the Bosnian Valley pyramids. You don't ever find one block the same as another. They are all unique. And again, this could well be to strengthen the structure, kind of like a jigsaw. If there was any tectonic motion, the different sizes would interlock. The different shapes would all interlock, and it would strengthen the structure. If you were to have blocks that were the same size, stacked up. If there's any movement, they wouldn't lock against each other. They would just move relative and fall apart.
Right. So it's not really. It doesn't really correspond to the building techniques, say in Egypt, then. No.
I mean, underneath the concrete, we through geophys, we can ascertain that there's blocks, sandstone blocks. Now, whether or not these are placed the same as at Giza, we've yet to find out.
So where exactly on the pyramid are you accessing these or finding these blocks? Is this in the lower levels or?
It's right at the base. Yes. The Bosnian government has put a digging restriction on the pyramid. There's a medieval fort at the top, which is actually constructed out of material that the pyramid's made from. During the medieval period, they were quarrying this concrete from one of the sides. On the south side, there's actually a collapse. Now, we don't know much about this collapse when it happened, but because of the collapse, it obviously broke the material and it allowed the medieval cultures to dig into it and break it up. And they built this fort on top. And the Bosnian government are saying, yeah, we need to protect this fort. It's a site of special scientific interest. So we're restricting any excavations on the rest of the hill because, the scientific community is yet to admit that this is a pyramid. So for all intents and purposes, it's still a hill. So they're not letting anyone dig on a hill in case they damage the medieval fort on top.
I see. So that's kind of the technique they're using to slow down or perhaps even stop this project from going ahead, huh?
It seems that they've been trying to put up many sort of obstructions from finding the truth. When I was over there, I found out that in the 80s there was a local drive to plant trees on top of this pyramid, around this pyramid. Why they needed an initiative to plant trees in Bosnia, I don't know, because they've got no shortage of trees in Bosnia. And I think especially, the kind of country it is, they've got better things to do than, plant trees. But when you're excavating and you're extending a trench and there's some trees in the way, it slows us down. And I get the overwhelming feeling that this was the reason why they had this initiative to plant the trees, because somebody somewhere knew that sometime in the future somebody would come along and say, oh, you know what, I think there's a pyramid here, let's start digging. And these trees, slow us down a lot.
Wow. So is this something new that they're throwing out at the project, at the workers there? Or because it seems like there's been some progress going on 2 or 3 years ago. So is it something new that they're throwing out to try and slow things down? Or?
Well, on a local level, I got to meet the local government there, and they are behind closed doors. They are fully supportive of this project. They've recently employed a tourist minister, so they want this project to succeed because they know it's going to bring money into the area. But as soon as they are in front of a camera on the site, I was with the mayor on top of the Pyramid of the Moon where we were excavating this year, and there are clear, man-made blocks, and he's trained in. I can't remember what he does, but he basically was there saying, "Oh, I think this is natural. This is a natural formation," because the camera crew was behind him. If you take away that camera crew, and he'd be listening to what we were saying and saying, "Yes, this is obviously man-made." So it's very interesting indeed.
Yeah, you could really speculate on what the reasons would be to claim this as a hill and to distort the information. That what would be their vested interest in keeping it as the status of a hill, of a natural formation.
Well, I think because these pyramids change everything we know about our history, where we came from as people, the technology in these pyramids, because it's not a simple burial site. It just can't be. We're finding an electromagnetic beam at the top of the pyramid. I can go into this. A physics professor called Slobodan Merzdrac. He comes from the University of Zagreb, and he came with his team this summer. Now, when they came in April, they did some initial scans of the area, and they thought it was a beam of ultrasound. But when they came back in June, they brought some more equipment, and they found that it was electromagnetic. And this beam has a circumference of, diameter, of 5 meters. Perfectly round beam. And it was resonating too specifically for it to be a natural phenomena. But what's most interesting is that they calculated that the beam was actually not coming out of the pyramid, but was going into the pyramid from above.
So this is one beam. You say what, about 5 meters in width?
Yeah.
And that's coming, not being generated out of the mountain, but coming down into it, huh?
Yes, it's coming down into the pyramid.
Huh.
I mean, I think maybe the upper atmosphere, it has something to do with ionization. Tesla's Rainmaker machine talks about, ionizing the atmosphere and drawing energy from it. So I think whoever built these pyramids was onto the same science that Tesla was just breaking into in the 20th century.
Absolutely. So this is coming down into the peak of the pyramid, at the pinnacle there. Yeah,
and we're finding the same phenomena on the tumulus, which is in the valley as well. Tumulus is similar to Avebury Hill in southern England. It's not a pyramid. It's like a conical mound. And again, this tumulus in Bosnia is built into the side of a natural hill as well. So the culture liked using nature and man-made structures together for their cause, whatever it was.
Wow, that is very interesting. Let's continue talking about that after we put a little break in here. So we will come back to this very interesting talk about the Bosnian pyramids with Rich Hoyle, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes. So see you on the other side.
What we did find that was interesting is that according to history of the area, the medieval forts on top of the pyramid, that beam of energy goes exactly into where the king's chamber resided. See, the king resided in this fort when it was in use, and this beam of energy emanates exactly where this king stayed, which I find quite a coincidence. What he was using this beam of energy for, maybe some spiritual gateway. It's speculation right now. But what the physicists did say when they were there is that it wouldn't take much to actually convert this resonating electromagnetic beam to usable electrical energy. It would. I'm not a physicist or an electrician, but he said, a few transformers and coils is all you'd need to generate an electrical current. At 1 meter above the pyramid, they calculated 0.4 millivolts, which doesn't sound like much, but this is coming out of what seems like thin air, completely clean, limitless energy.
Yes.
And at 3 meters above the pyramid, it would be generating 4 volts.
Wow.
So if we take that to 10 meters or even 100 meters, the size of that voltage would be enough to power a town, a city. One could only imagine. And we're at the very initial stages of research here. It's going to take a lot more people with expertise to figure out everything about it. But the initial stages are very promising.
Yes, you could envision putting a tower on top of the pyramid to reach up into the higher levels there to get more voltage drawn out, huh?
Yes. The lead archaeologist this summer, he suggested maybe that one day we would be able to power all the lighting within the pyramid for the tourists, within the tunnels, from pyramid energy. I mean, this would be a great eye-opener for people, that there are alternative energy sources other than, the ones we're given: solar, wind, tidal. Now, this one seems a lot more likely to be successful than any of them.
Yes, and if we can envision that there was a whole global network of these pyramids, as apparently is the case, a long, long time ago, say 10,000 or more years ago, 12,000 or more years ago, that could have been one of the functions of the pyramid networks, was for an actual energy source. So
Absolutely.
All we need to do now is just kind of restart them, in a sense, make them more, bring them back up into a more functionable state, because they're already there,
Well, what we're finding is it seems that these pyramids in Bosnia formed a perfect habitable zone for, humans, definitely. As well as the electricity, we're getting water seems to be a very a key part to these pyramids. In the excavations of the Pyramid of the Moon, we're finding channels, it seems, which could have been used for, water to be travelling around these structures. At the Pyramid of the Moon, we're actually seeing that wherever you dig, we're finding that the surfaces are dipping inwards towards the centre of the pyramid. And this could have been used to catch the water, any water that was falling on top of the pyramid, directing it inside into the middle of the pyramid and then downwards. Because geophys has indicated that all three of the pyramids in the equilateral triangle actually have underground water sources. And these channels of water from each of the three pyramids run directly into the centre of that equilateral triangle that the three pyramids form. So it's like a giant collection device, collecting this water and charging the water as well. Each of the pyramids is different size, different shape, different material, and so they each have different energetic properties. So they could be charging the water for different properties, health benefits, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. That's very interesting, because that brings up the pyramids in Giza, because we know that the Nile, about that time frame, ran right by the pyramids, where it's, I think it's like 8 kilometers away now. And then Tesla's tower, the one he built in upper state New York, was apparently built on a very huge, one of the biggest aquifers in that area. So there is definitely a connection to this kind of an energy production and underground water.
Yes, we're getting there's a large river that runs through the valley of the pyramids. It's one of the main rivers in Bosnia. So this is another correlation with the Giza Plateau, definitely.
I've even heard that some people are speculating that about that time frame, that at the end of the last ice age, that there was actually very possible that area of Bosnia was near where the pyramids would be flooded with water. Have you heard that speculation as well?
Yes, the Pyramid of the Moon, when you take the local name for it, which I can't pronounce, it actually translates into English as the whale, as in like the sea animal, the whale, with its water, and its second name is a fountain.
Wow.
So we are seeing this, in the names, connection with water, definitely.
And aren't there, what are they, like 40-centimeter iron rings also that have been found, either connected into the actual material or near the pyramids?
Near the pyramids, there is a sort of a very high structure. It may be a structure, it may be natural, but this is also curved round like a crescent moon. It has very steep sides, and it's almost as high as the pyramid, but it has these concrete blocks which, when they were first found, had these rings attached to them. Subsequently, these rings have gone missing, They've been removed by who, we don't know. But they do look like the kind of rings you would tie boats to, things like that. So yeah, very interesting, very interesting.
Yes, indeed. Wow, wow. That is. There's other strange things that have been found near the area, which are the giant stones, and I couldn't get a lot of information about that. Could you fill us in on what you know about the giant stones there?
Yeah,
around balls.
Yeah, I've been to see several of the spheres. They're different sizes, different materials. Some are more perfect than others. There's only been a few. Well, there's probably about 30 or 40 that have been found. Some are sitting in people's gardens. People have been finding them when digging foundations for their houses. There literally could be hundreds of thousands of them all around Bosnia, and no one knows where they came from, what their purpose was. They're slightly bulging around the centre of the sphere, almost like a planet or a sun. So it could be a religious artifact, a spiritual artifact. We really don't know at this stage.
And what's the variance in sizes of those spheres?
We found some small ones the size of a tennis ball, and they go up to, having maybe 2-3 meters across, some of them.
Huh. Wow. And has anyone tried to date them?
I don't think there's been any dating yet. In Bosnia, they have a habit, anything that doesn't fit, mainstream history, they just label it medieval. Everything's medieval in Bosnia.
That just kind of shelves it, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. Very interesting. And what about the tunnels around the pyramids? Are these tunnels that are actually in the vicinity of the pyramids, or are they actually going into the underneath area of the pyramids themselves? Right.
Well, Geophys has indicated that there is a very complex tunnel network running under the whole valley of the pyramids. We are guessing right now that all the pyramids are interconnected. It seems like that from the geophys that we've gathered. Currently, we are at the entrance to this network. We found an entrance about 5 kilometers away from the Pyramid of the Sun. And it's cut that these tunnels are cut into a natural post-glacial conglomerate. But what's interesting about this tunnel network is that at some point in the past, they've been blocked up. Now, critics, debunkers will say, oh, this is, just been blocked up by, water depositing material. Mm-hmm. But when we're excavating, getting deeper and deeper into this tunnel network, excuse me, we're finding dry stone walls, blocks, small blocks stacked up on top of each other to form a dry stone wall. And these dry stone walls mark off junctions within the tunnel network to other smaller tunnels. Dry stone walls can't be deposited by water. This is intelligent design here.
Right.
Someone deliberately placed this wall and then filled the tunnel up. The purpose of this, we're only guessing right now, but my personal opinion is that the Ice Age came, water levels rose, there was flooding, and whoever built these pyramids didn't want to have their structures flooded, so they blocked up the tunnel networks to make sure that water couldn't get inside.
That would make sense, yes.
Yeah, and we're finding all kinds of artifacts in these tunnels. Small things with symbols on them, larger slabs with patterns and things like that. Nothing that will blow your mind, nothing that would be worthy of an Indiana Jones movie quite yet. But we're definitely finding, activity, anthropological activity down here. Yeah, you were going to ask.
Yeah, so you're finding the markings and the symbols. Is that again within the tunnel system, or is that more on the sides of the pyramids?
This is inside the tunnels. Yes. we're finding blocks with runes on. They look like runes, basically. There are also 3, they call them the megaliths. You have an egg-shaped megalith, K1 and K2. They are actually ceramic-shaped objects. The smallest one, I think, is just over a ton. The biggest one is 8 tons, the K2. And when the tunnels were excavated, the post-glacial the conglomerate was actually sitting on top of these stones. So these shaped ceramic objects were actually there before the post-glacial conglomerate was deposited. They are older than the material. So this may be 2 cultures we're dealing with here, 2 different cultures. And I mean, we can look at these megaliths, and you can see that they're sat on plinths. You know, they've been purposely chosen to be placed in these locations, and then the tunnels have been cut to basically join them to the main tunnel network. One of the most incredible things I found while working in the tunnels is the air. The air inside them is crystal clear, fresh air. You go in there and you feel wide awake. It gets the oxygen running in your blood, you're more alert. And they did some analysis of the air, and they found that, well, outside in natural countryside air, you have roughly 36 parts per million of negatively charged oxygen molecules. Well, when they did the testing inside the tunnels, they found that it was as high as 36,000 parts per million.
Wow.
And the highest concentration was found at the largest ceramic K2 megalith. And the other concentrations were at the highest around the other ceramics. So these ceramic stones aren't just stones at all. It appears that there's some kind of energy transfer device, because underneath these stones, where these stones are located, are channels of water. Underneath these stones, where these stones are located, are channels of water. And these channels of water run out as springs just away from the entrance of the tunnel network, and they've been tested, and the water is positively charged. So what we're seeing here is, via these ceramic stones, is ionic exchange between the oxygen and the water, which shows another great understanding in, physics, chemistry, science.
Yes, indeed. That's one of the things I'd really like to hear, your personal experience of being in and around these sites. I mean, have you tried to, for example, to meditate, or to, just to kind of feel the energy there? Have you experienced anything on a direct experiential level like that?
Yes. When working in the tunnels, whenever I get a chance towards the end of the day, when all the workers have cleared out the tunnels, I will sit on one of the megaliths and meditate. And when having contact with these stones, close your eyes, empty your mind. My mind goes completely blank instantaneously. It's like you've been meditating for an hour after 5 minutes. It's truly wonderful. Like it'll be completely shielded from electromagnetic interference, all that kind of thing. I had a premonition, actually. After spending a lot of time working on the pyramids, I had a very vivid dream that I was camping on top of the pyramid, on the Pyramid of the Moon. And when I woke up in the morning, this is in my vision, I step out of the tent, and one of my shoes had gone missing. And I look around all for it, and I wander into the trees, and I find a fox with one of my shoes in its mouth. And I thought, well, that was an interesting dream I had. Anyway, that morning, when we're getting ready to go to the site, I meet up with one of the volunteers, and she had been camping on the moon that night. And what she told me was quite unbelievable. But she comes to me and says, "Oh, you'll never guess what happened to me last night." And I asked her, I said, "What happened to you last night?" "A fox only went and took my shoes." I told him my dream that I had, and we were quite dumbfounded for a moment. But many people over the summer have had spiritual experiences, definitely.
Oh, I would love to hear some of those. Is there any of those you feel comfortable telling us about?
Yeah, sure. Well, in July, it was the Mayan New Year, and a group of Mayans came to the Pyramid of the Moon, and they were doing their, celebratory traditional music, dances, all that kind of thing. And my friend, she was staying on the moon with them that night, and she had a vision, and she was on the moon, and a man came to her, touched her, and said, I've taken human form so that you can comprehend how I exist, or words to those effect. And he basically explained to her that she shouldn't be scared. The world is going through some great changes, and it's going to take people with open hearts and open minds to bring about this change, but that there is nothing to fear. And he asked her if she would like to see where he came from, and of course she said yes, definitely. So he touched her, and they went from the moon to somewhere completely different. It was, she explained it as a red, kind of dusty planet. She said maybe Mars, but I don't think they're that close. Maybe not Mars. And he basically showed her around the planet. He held on to her, and they levitated around the planet. And when he brought her back, she woke up on the moon where she'd fallen asleep, and she was in tears from the information that had been imparted to her. She seemed to think it was a very real experience, and I have no reason to doubt otherwise.
Yes, well, I don't either. We've been hearing all kinds of stories like these, especially in the past, say, 5 or 6 years. People that you can trust their opinion and their sanity, saying these amazing stories of contacts with human-looking beings that are saying they're not from the Earth, so it's very interesting. I've never had one myself, but I don't doubt that there are very intelligent people that are actually having these kinds of encounters.
Mm.
Now, have you heard several of those kinds of stories or tales since you've made contact with the Bosnian pyramids?
Yes, I mean, when I was over there, the kind of people that were attracted to this project, they were all awake and aware, and many of them were very spiritual people. Mm-hmm. And this was quite a new thing for me. My mind was in learning overdrive. I was absorbing all kinds of information from people all over the world, and they all seem to have common threads. That these pyramids are very special. They hold important clues to where we come from as people, definitely.
Very, very interesting. And so they are now calling for volunteers, I understand.
Yes, that's right. The 2011 excavation season, they need volunteers, basically, and you don't need to have any scientific experience. You're just willing to learn and to help out. Last year we would basically work from 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then have the rest of the day to do whatever you wanted. You could carry on the research, you could go walk to the top of the Sun Pyramid, or you could go to Sarajevo. Basically choose to do with the time what you want. There's some museums you could visit, anything basically. So it's a great experience, and I highly recommend that people go, because listening to me talk about it it will not compare to actually being there and seeing it for yourself, and it will change your life, I guarantee.
And so this is the volunteer project that is headed by the government itself, or is this a private
It's been self-funded by Dr. Samir. He is funding the whole project himself. He was a businessman in America. He has a factory. I mean, he studied Mayan culture at university. He has a PhD in ancient cultures, and he's visited all the pyramids around the world. And then when he discovered the pyramids in Bosnia, he's been funding this project himself since 2005. There are a few sponsors, but I think most of the part it's come from his own pocket, which is fantastic. What he's doing, basically.
Yes. Now, what is the feeling amongst the people that live in the area? Are they, how would you say, standoffish to people coming to work on the pyramid? Are they welcome with open arms, or what's kind of the attitude there?
When I was over there, I met two types of people. One type, they knew that the pyramid's there, and they were so grateful for anyone that came to their small town to help them, because nobody comes to Vesico. It's in the middle of nowhere. There's no reason to go there apart from now the pyramids. And so when they see people coming from all over the world to help them understand their culture as well as our own, they're so grateful. And then you've got the other group of people, and they, I'll speak to a few of them about why I'm here, and they'll look at me and go, oh, "You're crazy. There's no pyramids in Vesico, and there's a giant sun pyramid towering over us." It's a brilliant example of how the human psyche works. How with the media and academia, how it can change a person's perspective of almost anything. The museum in the town of Vesico, they refuse to accept that there's pyramids. They will not acknowledge that there's pyramids in Bosnia. And if you step out the front door of that museum, you see the giant pyramid looking at a clear pyramidal structure. So yeah, it's quite amazing, really.
Well, yeah, I think the recognition of that would be, or the recognition, of that would really rock the boat of their worldview, the historical and geological and all that.
I think many of them are scared of what it means. They're still recovering from the war that they had in the 90s.
Yes.
I mean, the town has still got buildings with bullet holes all over it. Outside the police station, people walking up and down this path every day, and there's grenade fragmentation marks still in the pavement. There's a reminder for this conflict between the two religions, and I think they are very sensitive still about those topics, and for some giant pyramids to turn up, it questions their religion as well, and I don't think a lot of them are willing to do that yet.
Yeah, and that's, on one level, that's very understandable.
But, the more and more research that gets carried out, it's going to be harder and harder for anyone to deny it.
Sure.
I mean, when we can get inside the pyramid and show people that there's chambers, that is, I think, will be the turning point of this project. And I don't think we're too far away from it, because with the geophysics, we already know where the entrances are. We know where the chambers are. It's just a matter of digging and getting the restriction from the local government.
So by the geophysics, you mean what, the measuring techniques like radar and topography and things like that?
In reflection seismics, there is satellite imagery, both in radar and infrared, because the heat signatures of the pyramids are different from the surrounding area because of the hollow spaces within inside them. You can see that. And another indication of that actually is that the surface of on top of the pyramids, because of the hollow spaces, it warms up quicker. It has a different heat signature, and the biology on the pyramid is different. It actually holds Mediterranean climate. So the plants growing on the pyramid are completely different from the rest of Bosnia. Many healing plants, in fact, a lot of healing plants are found on top of the pyramids.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah. But let me just read a conclusion from a geophysicist, Oleg Gavroshkin, which he's a Russian, comes from a Russian university.
Great.
So this is his conclusion based on his spectrum analysis and reflection seismics. Similar geophysical research by the same team of experts was conducted on the Egyptian and Bosnian pyramids using the same equipment and the same modern research methods. The research on the Bosnian pyramids shows, beyond any doubt, that the detected seismic noise of various frequencies is produced by artificial structures rather than the surrounding hills. In comparing the research results, it was found that the geophysical characteristics of the Bosnian pyramids match those in Egypt.
Wow, well that's a pretty powerful piece of, I don't know if you call it evidence, but it's a powerful piece of putting the puzzle together, huh?
That conclusion is with all the geophysical data. I mean,